I think it's important to, to go around and sort of see how people have reacted to it, what action maybe, we've taken in the esports scene, because, a lot of, not just individuals, but also like teams and sort of products and events have been affected by this. First of all, Simple comes out and sort of publicly pledges, monetary support towards Ukrainian army. Obviously, Ukrainian army, Ukraine in general, there's a lot of ways that you can sort of, you can give and you can donate. Hopefully we can get those links in the chat. We had them in Valoranting, some great links to sort of donate here. But Simple comes forward and, makes a donation of $33,000. Again, and it's funny, I saw some tweets from people that didn't follow esports as well. And they were like, he should be over in Ukraine fighting for his country, which, whatever. But, the guy's taking a very public stand for this. He's Ukrainian. It's his country, you know what I mean? And I think that there are so many people that would have no idea what the fuck's going on, if it wasn't through someone like Simple or people like that as well. So not only raising awareness, but... obviously, geez, if my home was under threat, I'd like to hope at least I was a decent enough person to want to do something about that. So I guess that has God, if we can even find a feel good slant there, I don't even know. But Simple's obviously said, hey, I make money from Counter-Strike. I'm putting it back to my country, the defense of my country against a foreign invader. And look, there was tournament organizers that had to make some decisions about who they involved in their future planning. So Blast, for example, the Blast Premier, they banned Russian-based teams from events. So no Russian-based teams will be invited. And the We Play CIS Masters, which is like a regional qualifier, it's been cancelled because fuck me. God knows if they're even going to have a fucking studio to work out of here. This is the statement here. And I think... this is from Blast, and they said it's not appropriate to have this WePlay event go forward. Obviously, there's no celebrating esports in the CIS region when so many residents of the Ukraine, so many citizens can't even spare a moment to think about esports while their entire livelihood, their lives, their countries are under threat. So. One of only many organizations that have had to sort of make statements about this and adjust their approach accordingly. Yeah,
and again, we're seeing a lot of these statements also come out from all sorts of corporate entities, all sorts of sports-related entities. Sanctions are coming, right, in all sorts of ways against Russian-owned businesses, Russian citizenry. Again,
there's a lot of oligarch money tied up in esports.
There is, yeah. So, So on top of this, ESL today, so a little bit out of order of timing, today ESL released their statement about, how they're going to deal with this. And it is very similar to Blast's, but they name names. They basically are barring Virtus Pro and Gambit from participating. These are pro league teams. They are in ESL's Pro League. They are not Pro League Louvre agreement teams. So there's a different partnership there, but they have won the right to play in the league, right? They are league slotted teams, but not right now. So, and what ESL has said, which is what a lot of sports entities are saying to athletes that are being kind of sanctioned, if you will, or boycotted, or whatever you want to call this, that you're still eligible to come represent and play your thing, but you can't do it and represent them.
Right. So no sponsors, no jerseys, no name. So and you can't represent your country either. So you wouldn't have a Russian flag or anything up on you there. So and they obviously announced they're pausing all scheduled events in CIS region as well. This is, I think, pretty standard. There are tournament organizers that actually operate out of Russia, that are Russian-owned. A good example is Epicenter, who have been informed by Valve that their European Spring Tour for Dota, I believe it was Dota, right?
Yep.
Has been postponed indefinitely. So this is an example of a Russian-based org, Epicenter. We've seen Epicenter do, I would say, attempt lands for Counter-Strike. I think that was like the Raise Your Cans guy. I think that was an Epicenter
I think that was.
land. Yeah. So, I mean, not a great event anyway, but that's more of just a personal side. They've been told, you're not doing this. We're not getting alongside this. Obviously, there are other teams who have players that are involved in tournaments that are sort of run or quote unquote sponsored by entities from Russia. Good example is the D2CL, so the Dota 2 Champions League, I want to say.
Yep.
Yeah. So Alliance pulled their team out of that, and obviously don't want a bar of it again. I think it's really important that these teams, it's not just performative. It's not just changing your fucking profile picture on Twitter to match the colors of Ukraine, which, look, I understand the sentiment behind that. I'm not just calling people out for being performative if they do that, but this is just an example of taking a stand and where there's going to be a material impact, on not only themselves, but also on the tournament organizer. There are more of these. There are more of these situations. Na'Vi, like you mentioned earlier in the show, they have had to make some divestments of their own, or they've chosen to, rather.
Yeah, again, Na'Vi, big, not so polite, not so fluffy and nice press release dropped as well, and they don't pull their punches.
No.
And nor should they, right? Again, Ukrainian company, but all sorts of Russian and Ukrainian employees. Their rosters are split depending on what game you're caring about. They have a legendary agreement with Esports. Russian company handled all the marketing and did other stuff for Na'Vi. That's all been kicked to the curb, according to this. I think that a couple years ago, that slowly started to separate anyway with the new ownership of Na'Vi, but still, they're cutting ties officially and saying some not so fucking nice things about Esports on the way out, because Esports has kind of not been negative against the war, and if anything, been actually more supportive on the Russian side of it. So it's like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah. I mean, we are talking. These are like Russian elites that fund this. This is and Esports has direct ties to the Russian government.
Yeah, and also keep in mind we talk about two teams, and if you don't know at home, the two teams we're talking about, Virtus Pro and Gambit. Virtus Pro owned by one of the Russian oligarchs that is on the sanction list, right? His jet's flying around anywhere he can hide. So that's one. That's why they're in the doghouse. Gambit, its owner, is the same guy that owns MTS, which is the national telecom system of Russia, also very deep in the government, also not unrelated to all the bad shit, right?
Yeah.
So that's why those two teams in particular are being singled out. Not that they're owned by just Russian citizenry, but there's some fucking serious ties.
You can't explain away their ties. Like they are inextricably linked to the Russian government.
Because there's also Forza is a Russian company, as is Spirit.
Yep.
They're not being called out the same way because those are just Russian business owned, if you will, and less ties.
Again, the other, like ESL said, it's these entities that have ties to the government in Russia because they're trying to make that demarcation fairly clear. So I guess a similar situation happened here where Virtus Pro obviously have teams in multiple events. So their Dota team is well known, right? So this is a statement from someone at VP. I don't give a fuck who it is, really. Doesn't really matter. But basically, the team Virtus Pro at the Gamers Galaxy Dota 2 Invitational Series Dubai, presumably in person.
Yes.
Yeah, they were at in Dubai. Basically, they were told by the tournament organizer, like, your org needs to make a public statement about the situation in Ukraine and explain their stance, or you're going to get dropped from the tournament. Interesting that that it's being alleged here that the tournament organizer would announce the players that had COVID, even though apparently that they didn't have COVID, to sort of prevent them from playing, and they gave them a chance to not wear the jerseys, or basically what ESL is saying, right? This is from VP's perspective. They also said, we also said is that, well, okay, but this esports club or this event is Ukrainian. Like, they have ties to WePlay, so like the Ukrainians forced this decision upon them, trying to sabotage the event. This is just this reads like, I don't know, something out of another era. This guy, he basically says, Virtus Pro does not tolerate this behavior. We do not support any war there ever was. Now, here's the list, right? Ukraine, Syria, Afghanistan, Yugoslavia. Okay, all right, let's have some jabs at the United States. Fair enough. Yeah. But forcing someone to take a public stand does not lead to peace, but instead it drives people further away from each other and fuels hatred. Or it simply has your organization make it clear on which side of this issue that you stand, and not allow you just to keep doing as you were while your fucking psychotic dictator is waging war on an innocent populace, mate. Like, not trying to be funny, but the way, like, I love this. This is a fantastic self-victimization by these motherfuckers. And it gets worse as well. It gets, like, some of the quotes I've seen look like they come out of fucking Mein Kampf, man. It's insane. Go, you actually have the sheet in front of you, so you can refer to it now. I fucking ripped mine up to make a point.
I mean, Virtus Pro will not fall for this intimidation. We won't take off our jerseys, and we won't tolerate this pressure. We speak for ourselves when we find it appropriate. No, probably not. At the very best, again, Virtus, maybe not the people that wrote this, maybe disassociated and disattached from reality, but the person that owns this fucking brand is a fucking Russian oligarch. Okay, this is not just some rando Johnny Bravo Russian esports team. Let's make plays, not war. Your boss, wants this war, right?
I get it. Like the CEO is a citizen of Ukraine,
Yes.
right? Fair, but it's the ownership. The ownership is a problem. Like anyone can just appoint a CEO from fucking anywhere. I'd love to hear from their CEO, but he's probably too busy fighting in the streets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the problem is that this org has provable ties to the Russian government, and it's not a stretch to say that like the Russian government profits from the bit from the performance of this team.
Yes.
Right? What I don't see here is that so it says here that we are receiving provocations from certain public figures in esports. They said our behavior is the only adequate behavior in these dire circumstances, and then a quote that says any spark could lead to a fire. What the fuck? What is that? It's almost like stop trying to intimidate us because there'll be like a retaliatory action taken.
Yeah.
And basically they're accusing tournament organizers of conducting a witch hunt, which is not what's happening. It's either divest from Russia or you can't play. You can't play in this pool because we know you're going to shit in it.
Yeah. So, and again, and this statement, keep in mind, this statement came out right after the epicenter Dota stuff, right? So this VP statement saying "fuck you," we're not wearing our jerseys, came out before ESL's statement today.
Right.
So ESL knows that probably VP's not coming.
Yeah.
They're not going to come.
Mate, they can't fly anyway.
Yeah.
Like the fucking airspace is closed.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So we've caught you up. Let me double check we're on a show here. Okay, we got a couple more tweets. Yep, hang on though. I don't want to do this yet, Jason. I want to catch up. I want to talk about performative shit a little bit.
Okay.
Because I think some of these press releases are performative.
Which ones?
And I want to stop before we get into the ones that aren't.
Okay.
So obviously the VP one is performative in its own way. But I think Blasts from the core is incredibly performative. Right? A, it's poorly written, for one. It just doesn't read right.
Okay.
But it's performative because A, the way they say they cannot, that they don't explain why the CIS qualifier can't happen. That they're just going to cancel it. Right? They can't do the qualifier because WePlay, who would run the qualifier, is a Ukrainian company, right? So all it says is RCS qualifier has now been canceled. Tell me why, for one, right? The reason I say it's performative is they're making it sound like they've made a stand and they're doing something to their event. They're doing nothing. Because A, the qualifier can't happen. Not on them. Can't happen. WePlay is fucking shooting guns at people right now.
Yeah, it's like
right?
they don't make their position on the conflict clear, right? They just say it's not appropriate to hold this event.
But they're performing with this press release, right? And no Russian-based team will be invited. Because here's the thing. These teams in question, the four Russian teams, right? Because this just says Russian-based, right? This doesn't say Russian-owned oligarch teams. Blast's one. They don't call out.
I
Russian-based.
assume that's what they mean, though, right?
So, but let's say they mean all four of those Russian teams, Spirit Fours, they could all qualify.
Right.
They can't go to the qualifier because the qualifier don't exist. Blast could still invite them, right? They have an invite process. They can't invite them because they can't get visas and they can't get on a fucking airplane. So to me, the whole idea of this press release saying A and B happened is it doesn't matter. You couldn't have qualified.
You're saying it should go without saying.
It does go without saying.
Right.
So, and it's just a shittily worded way to even say it. ESL's is betterly worded, at least.
You just said betterly.
Better worded. Betterly worded. Hey, I didn't do good in English or in poli-sci, right? So I just think and I think Thor and a couple of people have called out, and and I'm not Thorin's best mate, but like in some of this is like, wait a minute, you're saying shit that you're canceling shit that was canceled for you.
Right.
Right? Like, so now I want to get into some of the real shit. And I think ESL's, they have, like, once Blast makes a statement as a TO, they all have to do something now. They have to at least clarify, right?
Sure.
Now let's get to Ryan's tweet. So Ryan, obviously Rush B Media, now Dust 2, editor-in-chief, obviously shitposter extraordinaire, has jumped all over this. And what he brings is not shitposting, but a real piece of news. The Belgian government has called upon the European Union to stop issuing visas, right? So this, again, gets into this performative thing. If Belgium... No, this is weird. Is that the Dust 2 logo? or is that the
That's a Blast
logo on and a Dust 2 logo? That's throwing me off.
Yeah.
This is for the major. He's talking about the major. That it's not
The
run by
Antwerp-
Blast.
the
right?
Antwerp
So
major,
that was
yes.
confusing me. So, because obviously the major is coming up. It is in Belgium. The fear and the concern, unrelated to obviously those other press releases, is that Belgium just won't grant visas. So
To Russians, yes.
to Russian citizens. So regardless of what Valve decides, and therefore what PGL decides in the sense of some sort of political statement about who owns teams, they might not be able to come. They might not be able to get in, right? Or are we going to drive them in through the cover of darkness, in fucking hay wagons, So,
No.
so Ryan opens up a whole new can of worms of regardless of what anyone is going to make a statement about, these Russian players might have a problem going anywhere for a while and playing anywhere because they're not going to be able to travel.
It's called being a citizen of a pariah state, Scott.
Yes.
Yes.
So now the big bomb dropped this morning, right? Because these are all outsiders making decisions on what they might do with their businesses and how that might help the war or not help the war. Guess who asked us for help today? Guess who asked the gaming and esports world for help today?
Look, I'm not personally familiar with Mikhailo Fedorov, but on my little notes here, I can tell you that this guy is like a deputy prime minister, deputy vice president. Look, he's a member of the cabinet in Ukraine,
Yep.
Minister of Digital Transformation, amongst other titles. He is telling Xbox and PlayStation, obviously two of the largest gaming platforms, to leave. It's not leave the Russian market. People are wondering, I think a lot of people are saying like, oh man, this is really going to, induce hardship on the people of Russia. Like all this sanctioning, all this cutting off, all of this isolate. It is, yes. Ultimately, it's to try and, in some sense, encourage the inhabitants of Russia to try and put pressure on their local representatives. But it's not a fucking democracy. That's the whole problem with this. Either way, this is the letter from, obviously, Mr. Fedorov here, pointing out, obviously, what the Russian Federation has conducted. It was an invasion. And basically saying, I want you to block all Russian and Belarusian accounts, temporarily stop the participation of Russian and Belarusian, because Belarus, their democratically elected leaders not leading the country right now. It's like some other, I think it's like it's basically a Moscow puppet that's running the place, and it was like an ill-gotten position that he has. And they're launching rockets from Belarus, and Russian troops are entering through. They're complicit in this, unfortunately. So cancel all esports events in Russia and Belarus and prevent them from participating. So this is obviously. This is happening because Ukraine consider this to be this would be a pain point for Russia.
Yep. And again, I think that's the bummer of this, but it's also something we all have to understand is, yes, we're our industry, our hobby, our athletes, our players, whatever you want to call them, and our fans are being used to leverage against Putin. Yeah. Right. And it's unfortunate, right? Because a lot of these other sanctions have been related to representing Russia or playing for a national team or wearing the colors or you work for an oligarch. He doesn't care. He's like, don't let any of them play anything. Yep. If there are no Russian accounts, no Russian citizenry anywhere.
Look,
that's how you send the real message.
And this is occurring, obviously, I think also the Ukrainian government has appealed to Apple for them to sort of prevent Apple Pay from working and sort of App Store stuff like that. I think that Ukraine are justifiably, appealing to the entire technological world, saying we need to cut these guys off. You know what I mean? Trying to basically turn Russia into another North Korea in terms of how isolated they are, which I think obviously has some really unfortunate implications for the entire fucking population of that country. You know what I mean? Obviously, gaming is huge in Russia, huge. Yep. So I don't think I need to lay out the impact that it would have on people over there as well. We've seen the fucking protests in Moscow. We've seen how many people are getting arrested by Russian police for protesting against this war. This is not a widely, as far as I understand, supported war in Russia. It is definitely something that the many of the oligarchs and many of the elites are like, even China are saying, hey, you need to negotiate. You need to get to a table and have a democratic negotiation with the Ukraine here. So that's as much straying away from the gaming side of this as I'm sort of willing to go. Obviously, again, I didn't do well or study poli-sci at all. So I'm simply trying to keep my ears and eyes open and not fall prey to misinformation. Hopefully you can all do the same. We're going to be back after the break.